love orange juice. So, welcome back. Today we're gonna make these fit that. And then put the whole rest of it out the back somewhere, all the rest of the exhaust stuff. But first things first, what I need to do is actually make these fit the heads, because they were the cheapest ones that I could get from China, and apparently they just don't bolt up to the heads or anything. They're originally for a C10 from the 80s. They're long tube headers, and I kind of figured, well, it's a big truck and there's no engine mount in the middle. It has the horseshoe thing on the front, so I was assuming that that they would bolt right up, or that there would be enough clearance. But you know how that goes. We'll see what happens. The rest of the exhaust is just 2.5 inch, just mild steel. It's not even aluminized. It was like the cheapest stuff that I could get on Amazon, I think, before the whole virus scare happened, or is currently happening. So it's nothing special. I'm probably just going to paint it with high heat paint. The mufflers are some kind of chambered knockoff eBay deal. I think it was like $50 for 2 of them. They're like a 2 chamber, maybe 14 inches long kind of thing. So yeah, that's pretty much what we're going to use. I have no idea how it's going to fit with this truck has 4 drive shafts. You have one running from the transmission to the transfer case, one running to each axle, and then one for the PTO that runs back to the winch. So there's a lot of stuff to dodge and miss, and then there's the actual PTO off the side of the transmission. So all of that we're going to have to kind of sort out as we go. And I've already bought these headers, so even if they fit horribly, then I'm just still probably going to cut them up and use them. So we'll see what happens. Well, I'm sure you guys saw that coming. The headers fit horribly. It is what it is. It runs into the cross member, and it's going to hit the PTO whenever it needs to turn around it, and the clutch linkage. But it's always something with this truck. This truck is just fighting me like every step of the way, but it's okay. So probably what I'm going to start with is I'm just going to heat them up and beat the living hell out of it until it clears the clutch linkage. And, we'll go with the engine master's method, the dents don't matter or whatever. And after that, we'll figure out how to run it around the PTO. Probably what's going to end up happening is I'm going to have to cut the collector off and then kind of angle it. And I bought 2.5 inch V-band kits for somewhere in this exhaust, and I guess I'm gonna have to use them there, even though I was hoping to make later in the exhaust kind of a 2-piece thing. But whatever, here we are. Okay, so I went ahead and slotted the holes on the mill using about the sketchiest setup that I've ever used before in my life. And I'm actually really amazed that it didn't throw the part across the garage, but it didn't, so that's okay. These holes, which are for the motor mounts, whoever built this had loosely cut these up with a like a cutting torch. So I used an annular cutter and just a 1/2 inch or 5/8 or something end mill and just kind of clean them up a little bit. And these holes on the end that are slotted way longer than they need to be, I think. So I'm hoping that'll work out the way that I need it to. Yeah, the holes are like 5 inches apart, and I've got 6.5 inches of slotted holes. So hopefully they'll fit. So now it's time to put it back in the. Well, trans cross member is finally installed. I'm going to lower this down, I don't know, to where there's about 1/4 inch between the trans and the jack, and then just let it sit here overnight and make sure nothing fails. What I ended up doing was machining, like slotting another couple pieces to put on the back side so that I could grab this bolt and this bolt, because I really didn't like having just two up here. Having them kind of spread out makes a lot more sense to me, and I can grab at least one more bolt on that side and one more on this side on the top if I want to. So should be good to go, but I'm gonna let it sit here overnight, and then we're going to pull it apart, paint it, and ew, apparently that seal on the PTO is leaking. But pull it apart, paint it, just kind of half-ass, and then put it back in. Honestly, this was a lot more work than just making a whole cross member, but you know, we're on quarantine or whatever, and I don't have the material, so. Okay, so I got both the headers put in. They're just held in with a couple of bolts, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start running the exhaust, because I've kind of built momentum up with that, and the rest of it will just be mild steel, so just straight MIG welding. It'll be super simple. I do have a couple of like Chinese Flowmaster knockoffs that I'm going to use, and a bunch of 2.5 inch bends and straight pipe and stuff. So I haven't really decided where I want it to exit though, so. Have you ever bought something, like have you ever been goofing off on your phone while you're laying in bed at like 4 in the morning, then you bought something and you're like, why in the hell did I buy that? Well, that is what this is. Yeah, apparently 4 a.m. Devin thought he needed a jack that was this damn tall. But anyway, what we're actually going to be doing today, besides just opening boxes, is I've got to pull the exhaust off, and I need to fully weld it because it's just tacked in a couple of spots, and I like to weld all the way around the pipe. Even when they're slip fit, I don't care. I'm welding it all the way around. But the other thing is that it needs exhaust hangers. So I've got a couple of these guys that my buddy Drew got me. Thanks, Drew. And up here's some. There it is. This is a 1/2 inch round bar. So I'm just going to cut that up, bend some mounts, weld them to the frame somewhere, and then weld them to the tube somewhere with those in the middle, like a pretty simple exhaust system, not doing anything crazy. And I really hate those clamp-on things with like the little rubber, I don't know, piece of like mud flap or whatever it is behind them. Hate those. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on that. Okay, so the exhaust has been mocked up, pulled off, welded up, painted with high heat paint, and now they're laying over yonder ways. Next step is I've got some of this this high heat wrap. Probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up wrapping the header, at least the driver or passenger side one, basically the whole header, and the driver's side one. I do need to wrap the exhaust at least around the PTO and on the passenger side where it gets close to the transfer case. So probably what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and wrap both headers and just kind of see what's left over, because I don't need a whole lot for the PTO and for the transfer case. And as you can see, they finally bolt to the heads, so that's great. Kind of some haggard machining there with the complete wrong end mill, but whatever, it cut. So that's what I used. Yeah, I'm probably just gonna go ahead and, like I said, wrap both headers just in their entirety, and so then at least they match. And if I have to ever reach into the engine bay, maybe it'll keep me from getting my arms burned, even though then you get fiberglass all over you and it becomes itchy as hell. But, you know, you can't win them all. I know a lot of people, and I've done it before, they use water. They'll like soak the header wrap in water to kind of keep the dust down and everything. But the only benefit to that I've seen is... well, it's not even a benefit. The only thing I've seen it ever do is that it sucks the dye out of it if you have like the black or the, you know, the colored header wrap. So I'm probably just not going to do that and just wrap them normally. I know some people say, oh, it makes it shrink, but it's fiberglass. I don't see how that's possible. So, but you do you, I'll do me. So I'm going to go ahead and just start wrapping those headers, and we'll hopefully get them back in, and then we can kind of move on to... we'll get Hank back up in the air and put the rest of the exhaust on, and then hope like hell that at least the exhaust is done. Because I don't know if you guys noticed, but I did have to cut the old trailer hitch out, which was junk anyway, just to get the exhaust out. So normally what I would do is just kind of admit defeat and cut it somewhere and then add another V-band so then I could take it off in multiple pieces. But I don't have any, and virus lockdown 2020. So yeah, so let's go ahead and get started wrapping some headers, and then we'll get them on the truck from the top, hopefully, and then we'll get the truck back up in the air. Okay, so one down, one to go. That actually took a lot more header wrap than I thought it was going to. This is actually 50 feet of header wrap on it. And I think it's because I do like to have the weave pretty tight, but not really sure what I'm going to do about this one. I think I'm going to probably maybe open that weave up a little bit just to kind of leave me at least some extra material that I can put around the PTO or the transfer case. And more worried about the transfer case than the PTO because the exhaust is a lot closer, but I do want to get this on today, and I know that I'm not going to be able to get any more header wrap soonish. So, yeah. So, round two. Okay, round two is done. That only left me with about that much header wrap. So, probably what I'm going to do is I'm just going to throw these on the truck, and then put the exhaust on and see if there's, just sort of figure out where I can use that the best and use it there. If I have to order more, that's fine, but I don't want to kind of hold up progress for today. So I'm going to go ahead and throw Hank in the air, and actually I can put these on from the top. So I'm going to go ahead and put these on, then throw Hank in the air, and then we'll keep moving. so the headers are back in, and if I'd thought about it, I should have put the plugs in before I put the headers on, because that would have been a lot easier. But you know, you always think about that stuff immediately after you're done. But yeah, so I guess before I throw the thing in the air, I'm just gonna go ahead and stick those header plugs in it and see what kind of room I've got for plug wires. And then after that, I'll throw it in the air and we'll slap the exhaust on. Well, these are probably the wrong plugs. You know, it's a really good thing that I have Amazon Prime, because nothing on this vehicle fits. The spark plugs don't fit. They're gasket seat, and I need tapered seat plugs, so they're not even going to come close. So, yeah, I guess they're getting sent back. I've got the right ones on the way this time. So I guess we can go ahead and throw it in the air and throw the exhaust in it, which probably won't fit, even though I made it. Oh, shit. God damn it. Well, that's a problem. I broke this hanger off because I apparently tacked these up and forgot to actually weld them out, so I'm gonna go ahead and drag the welder over and weld these guys out. I did scratch the hell out of this, but to be completely honest, the whole underside of this is probably going to get hosed with Rust-Oleum, so I'm sure these will get covered in paint again anyway. But anyway, I'm going to drag the welder out and weld those up, and then the exhaust will be in. Okay, so the exhaust is in. It fought me like everything else. It does get pretty close to the PTO, so I'm probably going to wrap the tube right there, and it hits the transfer case. So I'm going to kind of, I don't know, I'm going to sleep on it, see what I want to do about that. If I want to relieve the pipe or maybe dent it, or I don't know, leave it alone. But I am concerned about the front V-band sealing, since it's pretty hard to get in there and it's kind of in contact. I don't really know what I'm going to do about the back as far as how it's run. It just runs over the axle and just stops right there because of the utility bed. I don't really know what I'm going to do. What else? The header plugs don't fit. So, but Amazon tells me the other ones will be here on Tuesday, and it's Thursday today, I think. So that's okay. I'll just keep plugging away on other stuff, like doing little fuel lines and that kind of thing until then. Those headers were just royal garbage, pretty much. I know that they're not designed for this particular truck, but the flanges didn't fit. They hit the cross member, which should have worked. I mean, they were the cheapest ones on Amazon or eBay, wherever they came from, and they were really not worth the money. I should have gone with something else. I probably should have just gotten block hugger headers, because there's plenty of clearance right there, and then the exhaust would have been super simple. But I wanted to make sure that the exhaust was tucked up above the frame anywhere that I could. I'm kind of worried about this maybe getting crunched on like a rock or something, but it would hit that front drive shaft before it hits this, which is also a problem. But anywhere in here it should slide just fine. It, a rock would get caught on the transfer case before it would ever crunch up the exhaust. So, yeah, so that's pretty much going to wrap up this video. Thanks for watching. Like I said before, let me know if you have any comments, criticism, all that. So thanks, guys.